founder and chairman of the British Arab Network, Wafik Moustafa. Thanks so much for coming on. Now, you are the author of Egypt, the elusive Arab Spring. 7 years after the military coup that toppled the democratically elected, Egypt's first democratically elected president, Mohamed Morsi, where would you say that things first went wrong?
I think it went wrong because the military from the start was aborting the revolution of 2011. Obviously, they were using a lot of patriotic slogans, but actually they would want to continue the same legacy of 1952 coup, but even became worse. Egypt now is a full-flanked tyranny with no human rights. 110 million Egyptian people live virtually in prison. And as your reports say, Egypt's economical situation is virtually collapsing. The doctor in Egypt earns about $150 a month. It's probably one of the lowest on the world. And that's a doctor, let alone nurse, probably get about $80 a month. And his situation is very dire and difficult in Egypt. If you look at corruption, the control of all key positions by the military, 90,000 people in prison, and probably a lot more have been prevented from leaving the country. And there is a problem in Egypt, probably similar to North Korea in some ways, and probably worse, because of the living conditions.
Okay, so you've touched on so many strands there, Mr. Moustafa. Let's talk about the people, first of all. The economy. You gave an example of what a doctor earns. We're watching very closely what's happening in Lebanon. How bad is the economy now? And 60% of Egyptians were said to be either poor or vulnerable by the World Bank last year. How is the situation now during a pandemic? And we're not getting that much information about COVID-19 in Egypt.
No, I think that probably hundreds of doctors died. We don't know the figures. Lack of transparency is amazing and scary because they think by giving fake numbers. For example, Egypt, by the number of population, got less COVID-19 positive than Switzerland. That's how the lack of transparency and really lack of responsibility as well, because they're not tackling the disease. And as well, there is no infrastructure, there are no hospitals. Doctors are dying. Lots of young doctors, not all doctors, all of them in their 30s and 40s dying, and the government does not give figures, does not give names, except when you hear someone say, my brother died, my brother-in-law died, like what I've read this morning about young doctors about 35, 40. I think, and you're talking about Egyptian pound. Egyptian pound now is 20 to 1 sterling, which, look, 70 years ago, Egyptian pound was equal to 1 sterling. Now it's 20, equivalent to 5p. So it's very low buying power. And I'd say as well, if you look at the foodstuff, you look at the high dam, Ethiopian Renaissance dam, going to drop the water table. And Egypt already have about 7.5 million acres. That will be reduced to about 6 million acres. Okay. So how can you feed 110 million people on that small land?
And you said earlier Egypt is in a similar situation to, you compared it to North Korea. How is Egypt a safer place today than it was before the coup?
Not at all. I think what happened, Egypt has had 1 year of really democratically elected President Morsi, Professor Morsi, and it lasted about 12 months. That's the first time we have democracy in Egypt for 2,000 years, irrespective of Islamist or non-Islamist. But the military is holding stays of reigns of power in Egypt. So Egypt is a very unsafe country. Look at how many people have been abducted. Look at how many bloggers, young bloggers, Abdel Fattah, young lady, being taken, just snatched from the road, from the street, without telling, and about a week later surfacing and police custody.
Mr. Moustafa, we've run out of time. Wafik Moustafa, it's been a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time.